Hello, I'm Aaron, the Dungeon Master Dad. I'm not the Dungeon Dad because that's another guy, but apparently, um, you know, I'm not going to be that because another guy's already using that name. However, just occurs to me if you're going to call yourself Dungeon Dad, you should kind of talk about your kids in the videos. But, who am I to quibble? Anyway, last week on my channel, we talked about, who's we? It's the royal we. I talked about teaching my kids or introducing my kids to Dungeons and Dragons, and we started a Greyhawk campaign. So when last I left you, they were just entering the village of Hommlet. Now, Village of Hommlet was originally published as a standalone module by TSR in 1979. It was written by Gary Gygax, the main creator of Dungeons and Dragons. And then about 5 years later, 1984, it was fleshed out into the entire Temple of Elemental Evil campaign, which takes characters from levels 1 through 8 in first edition Dungeons and Dragons. My children and I are playing it in 3.5 edition. I know nowadays 5th edition is what is out, but I started the game playing basic D&D. Eventually, in high school, went into advanced D&D, and then as an adult, I sort of skipped over 2nd edition because I didn't think there was that much of a difference between 1st and 2nd. Didn't invest in all the books, but when 3rd edition came out, I bought everything, and then I had sort of stopped playing by the time 4th edition came out. And so when a few years ago I went back to playing, I still had all the books. I have kept them all. So rather than move on to 5th edition, I just picked it up with what I had. I have since looked at 5th edition and decided I still really like 3rd edition, 3.5. And that's the edition that I taught my kids to play. So the Temple of Elemental Evil, or the first part of it, the Village of Hommlet, is a adventure that takes place in a village called Hommlet. At least the first half of it. There is a dungeon nearby called the Moat House, which we will get to next week. The characters, Logan and Reagan, played by the players Logan and Reagan, have been given as their mission by the Queen of Selene the mission to check out the village of Hommlet, talk to everybody to find out about any bandit activity that might be responsible for the disappearance of an elven noblewoman. I used mini quests from the Temple of Elemental Evil computer game to flesh the game out a little bit. I mentioned this last week. I don't actually own that game, but I found walkthroughs online that I used for these mini quests. So the mini quests would be little role-playing puzzles that Logan and Reagan would have to solve for the various villagers. And for each of these, I would award 300 experience points divided between them. So for solving 7 of these, they could attain 2nd level. You need 1,000 experience points in 3rd edition to get from 1st level to 2nd level. So I put these mini quests in there as one way to allow them to learn to role play, and also to give them a chance to gain a couple levels before they went to the Moat House. Because I played Temple of Elemental Evil twice before, and the first time I played it in high school, we at the final boss fight at the end of the Moat House is with a 5th level cleric. The first time I played it, they cast Hold Person spell on him, and he failed his saving throw, so it was easy. They dispatched him easily. It was only when we were giving out the treasure that we found out that he had a pair of armbands that protect you from a Hold Person spell. It was a little too late, so kind of said, oh, they're on the table. He's not wearing them. Oops. So the second time I played it, when I was in college, I remembered the armbands, made the fight a little harder. As a matter of fact, it made it harder enough that the players lost. It would have been a total party kill. I had them captured instead and then used one of the NPCs from Hommlet to come and rescue them. So this time I was hoping to have something in the middle. I wanted to be properly challenging. He would have his armbands on. They couldn't use hold person. But hopefully the party would be powerful enough to actually defeat the cleric and all of his minions. And toward this end, one of the things that I decided was, hey, because I've watched a video of somebody playing the video game of Temple of Elemental Evil, let me use some of those mini quests from it, and then we can get some experience points for the characters before they even start that part of the adventure. So, Logan and Reagan began their investigation in the Inn of the Welcome Wench, and I have a picture here. So this is a picture of basically the entrance of the village of Hommlet. It's a printout from the Temple of Elemental Evil. I have a PDF version. Back in the day, I had the original, but I don't still have that. And here is the map of the town. Got that on 2 pages. So here's one half the map of the town, and here's the other half of the map of the town. Okay? So Logan and Reagan went to the Inn of the Welcome Wench, and there they talked to people in the inn, and in being very friendly, and Reagan has very high charisma, they got to know some of the people, and they talked, they asked about if anybody knew anything about people being kidnapped in the area. Well, as soon as they said that, a lot of people were discussing, hey, have you heard that Prince Thrommel is missing? So Logan and Reagan didn't know who Prince Thrommel is. Their characters didn't know who Prince Thrommel is. Well, apparently Prince Thrommel was the prince of Valuna, which is one of the neighboring kingdoms, who was engaged to Princess Jolene of Feriendi. And while I know I have the names right, I may be getting which kingdom each one is from backwards. This was a year and a half ago we played it. Anyway, their marriage was supposed to unite the two kingdoms, and a few months before the wedding was arranged to happen, he went missing. So that's a big bit of gossip right now. On top of that, in getting to talk to people in the inn, well, the inn is where adventurers from out of town will hang out. So they were trying to get a sense, hey, are there any other adventurers here who, want to join us in our quest? This was, of course, to allow them to meet the other NPC characters that we had created that I talked about last week for the game. There's Shrek, the fighter, half-orc, the half-orc fighter. And there's Monty the wizard, human. And Morgan the cleric. And also, we added a 4th NPC, and that is a rogue. We knew, or I knew, that you're not going to get through the Temple of Elemental Evil without having a rogue to open locks and find traps. So I created the rogue, happens to be a halfling. I named him Bingo Bolger, which is actually a name that Tolkien was used in one of the earlier editions of Lord of the Rings. It was going to be the original name of the character that eventually became Frodo Baggins. It's going to be Bingo Bolger Baggins. Anyway, Bingo Bolger is our party's rogue. So they got to know all of these characters, and now we have a party of 6. And they also met some of the NPCs of the town who were in the actual module. Several of them they talked to, and some of them wanted to accompany them. Some of them are actually spies for the temple. In some cases, Logan and Reagan just had bad feelings about them. They were actually pretty intuitive. In one case, there was a cleric who, a wizard, second level wizard, who's actually pretty harmless, and said he would go with them as long as he could have all the scrolls. Well, they didn't take him because they already had Monty in the party, and Monty was going to want half the scrolls at least. He wanted his share of the scrolls. So they didn't take that guy. One man that they did meet in the inn was a fighter by the name of Elmo. He's actually a ranger. And Elmo said he would accompany the party. Elmo seemed to be inebriated, but it was really an act. And he said he would accompany the party if they bought him a big axe and some chainmail armor. And he also told them that he knew that the nearby moat house had bandits. So the players, Logan and Reagan, decided they wanted Elmo to go with them. But right now they could not afford to buy chainmail armor. So see what happens. This is actually a good thing because Elmo is a good character to have along. In fact, in the game that I played in college, Elmo was the one who rescued the characters after the total party kill. So by having Elmo with these characters, hopefully we'll be able to avoid that. Elmo will be their first mentor. He's actually a 4th level ranger, so for these first level characters, that's pretty helpful. In continuing to investigate the town, other non-player characters that they met were Turjon, the priest at the Church of St. Cuthbert. They met Jiru Ashstaff, the druid in the Druid Grove. And they met Byrne and Rufus, who were the guardians of the town. They were given a land grant by the Viscount of Verbank. It is their job to protect the town, and they are currently in the process of building a keep. There's like a wizard tower, and they're building a little small castle there to help protect the town. Now, they went throughout the entire town, knocked on every door, met everyone in the town, and just mentioned a few of the things that happened. They took down a goblin that had robbed a house, or was in the process of robbing a house when they got there. Reagan hit him with a magic missile, and then Logan hit him with an arrow, so that was their first taste of combat. The homeowner was grateful. They met a woodcutter who offered to give them one of his axes if they would help him deal with a problem in the forest, in that he'd been attacked by giant spiders. And by giant, I don't mean like Mirkwood Forest giant. I mean like, like yay big, pretty big spiders, but not, man-sized spiders. So they accompanied him to the woodcutting grove in the forest, got attacked by 2 of these giant spiders. They took Shrek along with them on that one. He accompanied them, and the 3 of them killed the 2 spiders. And they got an axe. So now they just needed to get chainmail armor, which they still don't have money for at this point. Upon meeting Byrne and Rufus, they were looking over the construction project, and Byrne and Rufus mentioned to them that they were having supply problems. So Logan and Reagan did a little clandestine investigating, and they discovered that someone in the construction project had been mislabeling the supply requests that were going back to Verbank. So basically, someone was going in, stealing the papers, the parchments on which Byrne and Rufus had written what they needed, and was rubbing out the ink and putting different stuff. So when the supply was coming, it didn't have the right stuff. So they figured out who did it, and they caught him and basically caught him in the act and interrogated him. And in doing so, they found out that there were spies, besides just him, in the village, specifically the two men who owned the trading post. And so they brought this information to Bern and Rufus, and they brought Giroux and Turgeon into the conspiracy, or counter-conspiracy, so to speak. And together with our party and these higher-level characters, they all attacked the trading post to arrest the spies. And as a result of this battle, the spies were defeated with their share of the experience points. Logan and Reagan, by the time they go to the Moat House, they're 3rd level. And the other characters, Shrek, Morgan, Monty, Bingo, 2nd level. This is what's going to allow them to survive the Moat House. In addition, they've arrested or killed the 2 men who own the trading post, take a suit of chainmail armor, and now Elmo is on the team. Interestingly, when they went to the Moat House, they noticed that the axe that Elmo had was not the one that they gave him. So there was something more to Elmo that met the eye. In fact, what it is that Elmo is in the employ of the combined sister kingdoms, Voluna and Verbank. Voluna and Feriundi, and it's his job to sort of police the area to make sure that the forces of the temple don't come back. His older brother is also in the same business, and in fact, Elmo's father and mother live in Hommlet, so this is his beat, so to speak. So he's sort of a secret agent, but he's a secret agent for the good guys, which makes him a good person to have on the team. So that brings us to the point at which Logan and Reagan, Elmo, Monty, Morgan, Bingo, and Shrek are ready to tackle the Moat House, because they know that, or at least Elmo has told them, there are bandits in the Moat House. Bandits take prisoners and ransom them, or sometimes use them for more nefarious purposes. We don't know yet for sure, but if the Temple of Elemental Evil is coming back to power, there are human sacrifices there, and so there are a lot of reasons why they would take prisoners. Now, I may have been remiss in giving some background of the Temple of Elemental Evil, which they also learned from talking to people in the town. About 13 years ago in game time, the Temple of Elemental Evil came to power, raised an army, was basically taking over the area. The Moat House that is near Hommlet was their basically outlying guard post. And because of the power of the temple and all of the evil creatures that were there, the kingdoms of Feriundi and Voluna, the city of Greyhawk, city of Verbank, sent armies. The forces of the temple were defeated in the Battle of Emmerdry Meadows, which was pretty close to Hommlet. Most of the people who live in Hommlet fought in that battle, Bern and Rufus were heroes in that battle, which is why they were given this land grant. And the temple was defeated. After the Battle of Emmerdree Meadows, the armies went and sacked the temple itself. The Circle of Eight, a cabal of powerful wizards from the city of Greyhawk, went into the temple and cast some spells that would seal the temple up and make it so that whatever demonic power was at the heart of the temple could not get out. And there's been peace for the last decade. It's only in the last year or so that bandit activity has been on the rise again, and people have started to disappear. One of these disappearances is the disappearance of the elven noblewoman is what brought Logan and Reagan to Hommlet. And so after the several sessions of adventuring, as I've detailed to you, they had all their adventures in the village of Hommlet itself, and now they were ready for their first dungeon crawl, which we will discuss next week. So, I'm Aaron, the Dungeon Master Dad, reminding you, don't kill your kids' characters. That's what the NPCs are for.